الجب وأوحينا إليه لتنبئنهم بأمرهم هذا وهم لا يشعرون وجاءوا أباهم عشاء يبكون قالوا يا أبانا إنا ذهبنا نستبق وتركنا يوسف عند متاعنا فأكله الذئب وما أنت بمؤمن لنا ولو كنا صادقين وجاءوا على قميصه بدم كذب قال بل سولت لكم أنفسكم أمرا فصبر جميل والله المستعان على ما تصفون وجاءت سيارة فأرسلوا واردهم فأدلى دلوه قال يا بشرى هذا غلام وأسروه بضاعة والله عليم بما يعملون وشروه بثمن بخس دراهم معدودة وكانوا فيه من الزاهدين وقال الذي اشتراه من مصر لامرأته أكرمي مثواه عسى أن ينفعنا أو نتخذه ولدا وكذلك مكنا ليوسف في الأرض ولنعلمه من تأويل الأحاديث والله غالب على أمره ولكن أكثر الناس لا يعلمون ولما بلغ أشده آتيناه حكما وعلما وكذلك نجزي المحسنين وراودته التي هو في بيتها عن نفسه وغلقت الأبواب وقالت هيت لك قال معاذ الله إنه ربي أحسن مثواي إنه لا يفلح الظالمون ولقد همت به وهم بها لولا أن رأى برهان ربه كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء إنه من عبادنا المخلصين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلي وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أيها الإخوة والأخوات Inshallah ta'ala in this session we'll be covering and we'll be exploring this part of this surah, Surah Yusuf. And this part is an extremely important part to me because it relates directly to the sort of societies and environments that we live in today. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he grew up in the house of the Aziz in Egypt as a slave, our Prophet alayhi salam told us about Yusuf alayhi salam that he possessed half of the beauty of this world. So when he grew older, he was extremely handsome. His beauty was even more apparent. So as a young man, Allah Ta'ala says when he grew older in the house, we granted him prophethood. Allah Azza wa Jalla made him a prophet. And then Allah Ta'ala told us, وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Remember this part. Allah said, like that we reward those who do good, the muhsineen. Yani muhsin is one who perfects their relationship with Allah Ta'ala and their relationship with the creation of Allah Ta'ala. They do the best that they can. Ihsan, the Prophet ﷺ defined it when it comes to a relation with Allah Ta'ala. He said, أَن تَعْبُدَ اللَّهَ كَأَنَّكَ تَرَاهُ فإن لم تكن تراه فإنه يراك. That you worship Allah Azza wa Jalla as if you can see Allah Ta'ala, and if you cannot see Allah Azza wa Jalla, you are conscious and you know that Allah Azza wa Jalla sees you. That's how Yusuf alayhi salam was with his relationship with Allah. And he had ihsan when it came to the creation of Allah, that he was good to those who had rights upon him, and he was good to the creation of Allah Azza wa Jalla, starting with those who had the most rights upon him, his parents and his family, and so on. So Allah said, like that we reward those who are muhsin, who do good. Now this matters, because what's coming next is ihsan is one of the greatest things that helps us overcome it. وَرَاوَدَتْهُ الَّتِي هُوَ فِي بَيْتِهَا عَنْ نَفْسِهِ. The woman who raised him in her home, the wife of the Aziz, the Prime Minister of Egypt, she tried to seduce him in her own home. What did she do? This is her house. Yusuf is her servant. She is more powerful than him. So what did she do? وَغَلَّقَتِ الْأَبْوَابِ. She shut the doors, she locked the doors. Yani look, the Mufassirun, when they explain this, they say that there were many doors. She shut every single one of them and locked them so that it was difficult for one to come in. It would take a long time for someone to enter. Complete privacy. Nobody can see them. Nobody knows about them. And then, وَقَالَتْ هِيْتَ, she said, come quickly, I'm ready for you. Yusuf alayhi salam is a young man. And when you're at that phase in life, that's when your desires are high. This woman who is an extremely beautiful woman, who is extremely powerful, she has the authority. If he refuses, she's able to punish him. She's standing there, she's calling him to the act, not the other way around. She says, I'm ready for you, come quickly. And then look at the reaction of Yusuf alayhi salam. His first reaction was, Ma'ad Allah, I seek Allah's protection. I want you just to reflect on that statement. You know how difficult it is for a young man in a situation like that, where all the doors are shut, nobody knows about it, and he's being called to the haram. He's not seeking it, it's calling him to say, Ma'ad Allah, I seek Allah's protection. You know how difficult that is? That's extremely difficult. How are you? MashaAllah, you want to be there? Dad, come sit. You don't want to sit here, but you have to be quiet, huh? He doesn't want the story to continue. قال معاذ الله. He said, I seek refuge in Allah Ta'ala. I seek Allah's protection. Instantly, he sought Allah Azza wa protection from this haram, this matter that's under Allah Azza wa Jalla. But he didn't stop there. Yusuf alayhi salam, there are three matters that he remembered in that moment that stopped him from doing this haram. First, he remembered Allah Azza wa Jalla, the right of Allah Azza wa Jalla upon him, that Allah Jalla fi'ula, he is the one who sees him doing this, because he's a muhsin. He worships Allah Azza wa Jalla as if he can see Allah Ta'ala. Therefore, he does not allow Allah Azza wa Jalla to see him in a situation that he does something that displeases him. That's the first thing. And then he said, إِنَّهُ رَبِّي أَحْسَنَ مَثْوَايَ. Verily my master, i.e. her husband, the Prime Minister, he has been good to me. I cannot go behind his back and betray him by sleeping with his wife. He remembers the wife of the creation. He's a muhsin. And then he says, إِنَّهُ لَا يُفْلِحُ الظَّالِمُونَ. Verily the transgressors, those who transgress the limits of Allah, who oppress themselves by doing that to anger Allah Azza wa Jalla, Allah Azza wa Jalla does not allow them to succeed. Meaning that by me disobeying Allah Azza wa Jalla, I'm never going to succeed. He remembered himself and the right that his nafs has upon him. These three matters in that order stopped him from doing the haram. But what does Allah say after this? وَلَقَدْ هَمَّتْ بِهِ. وَهَمَّ بِهَا لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ. Certainly she desired him. Imran Aziz, she wanted him deeply. She had a deep desire for Yusuf. And then Allah says, وَهَمَّ بِهَا. And Yusuf alayhi salam desired her لَوْلَا أَنْ رَأَى بُرْهَانَ رَبِّهِ, if he did not receive the evidence from his Lord. Yani, Yusuf alayhi salam would have desired her as well if he did not see the evidence from his Lord. But Allah, with that evidence that he presented to Yusuf, protected him from desiring her. Because Yusuf alayhi salam is a human being. The prophets are human beings. They have the same desires as human beings. Yani they are able to make mistakes like human beings do. But Allah protected him. The Mufassirun, they explain what was the burhan, the evidence that Allah presented to him. They say that it was Yaqub alayhi salam that he saw in that zone, his father, biting his finger. They say that it was angel that inspired him to stop this from doing this. They say that it was Jibreel alayhi salam that came to him and presented this evidence to him that made him firm and stopped him from that. They say that it was what he was told in the well when Jibreel alayhi salam came to him, he remembered it in that moment. They say that he saw the Prime Minister coming to the room, and that was the evidence Allah Azza wa presented to him. All of these are different opinions. Also, the most important thing is that Allah Azza wa protected him with whatever it was. And then Allah Azza wa told us what was the main factor, the main reason that caused that protection. كذلك لنصرف عنه السوء والفحشاء. Allah said like that, we divert from Yusuf alayhi salam all of evil and immorality, zina. Why? إنه من عبادنا المخلصين, because he's from our chosen servants. إنه من عبادنا المخلصين في رواية, because he's from our sincere servants. Because of his sincerity, his ikhlas for Allah Ta'ala, Allah Azza chose him and protected him. Your sincerity is the key to protecting yourself from fitnah. Because what is sincerity, Imam Kiram? Sincerity, it is that you are attached to the hereafter. You are seeking the pleasure of Allah and the reward of Allah in the hereafter. Your heart is focused on the hereafter. So that means that you do not allow yourself to risk the eternal delight and pleasure of the hereafter, the temporary pleasure in this world. That is what he did. He was sincere. He said, I'm not going to risk the eternal reward that's forever in Jannah, in the hereafter, for temporary pleasure that I'm going to get right now. The more sincere you are to Allah Azza wa Jalla, Allah Ta'ala protect you from evil and haram. It depends on your sincerity. Even Iblis, he acknowledged that. If you're sincere, he can't get to you. Iblis, after he disobeyed Allah Azza wa Jalla, he said, قَالَ فَبِعِزَّتِكَ لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ إِلَّا عِبَادَكَ مِنْهُمُ الْمُخْلَصِينَ. He said, I swear by Almighty Allah, I'm going to misguide them all, except your chosen slaves, i.e. your sincere servants. Those who are sincere, I won't be able to misguide them, I won't be able to lead them astray. I can't get to them. Sincerity is the key, it's eternal. That connection that you have with Allah Azza wa Jalla, that consciousness of Allah Ta'ala, that you're seeking the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jalla, that you're trying to do everything for Allah Ta'ala, that is what's going to save you. Yusuf alayhi salam, his situation is perhaps exactly the same as the situation that we live right now, every single one of us. You know, back in that time, to have that haram easily accessible was hard. That you're alone with a woman in a room, it's locked, everything is facilitated for you, that was difficult. It was very rare, it never used to happen. Today, it's easy for everyone. It's on your phone. Haram is easily accessible. It's just a click away. You're alone with it. You can do whatever you want to get to it. And that's where the test is. That at that young age, when the haram is calling you, and your desires are high, and you're not able to overcome it, and you overcome it and refuse to do it because of Allah. And that's what the Prophet ﷺ told us, that these people who do that, they're going to be rewarded greatly in the hereafter. They're going to be rewarded greatly in the hereafter. So, okay, we can have everyone's attention back now. He's gone. He was a star of the show for a while. What's the last thing I said? What was the last thing I said? Nobody knows. And he literally was the star. You guys watching him all the time, Subhanallah. What's the last thing that I mentioned before?
Great reward.
The great reward. At least someone was listening. At least I had one person with me. MashaAllah. Allah Ta'ala is going to reward those individuals who refrain from haram with a huge reward on the day of judgment. The Prophet ﷺ told us, amongst the 7 who will be shaded under the shade of Allah Ta'ala, the day there is no shade except His, the day that the sun is going to be a mile above the heads of the people are going to be drowning in the sweat during the Qiyamah, depending on their sins, terrified, they are scared, they are frightened because they don't know what's going to happen to them. They're going to be people who are shaded under the shade of Allah Azza wa Jalla. They are at ease, they're not fearing when the people fear, they're not scared when the people are scared, they're not grieving, no, nothing, at ease. Amongst them is Rajulun Da'at Allah, a man who was called by a woman. What kind of woman? A woman that was very beautiful and had great status. She called him to haram, to zina, and he responded with Inni akhafullah, I fear Allah. Because it's such a great act, Allah is going to reward him greatly. These deeds do not go unrewarded. Your patience and your self-restraint will be rewarded greatly by Allah Azza wa Jal. But this brings us to another point, Ayyuha al-Kiram, which is that when the haram is so widespread, and when the haram is so easily accessible, is so important, even more important that one protects himself from the haram. Allah Azza wa Jal has not prohibited anything except that He has given us an alternative which is halal, which is permissible. Not only permissible, but Allah loves and is pleased with, and He rewards you for doing it. And that is marriage. The Prophet ﷺ told us to get married early. He told us to not delay it. If you're able to do so, get married. Because it will protect your private parts from haram. It will keep your gaze lowered from looking at haram. And then He said, whoever is not able to do so, upon him is to fast. Because that will be a shield to him. No, look at Yusuf alayhi salam. Yusuf alayhi salam, as soon as he was faced with that, what did he do? He ran away from Imrat al-Aziz. He ran to the door. She chased him. She rips his shirt from behind. Then as soon as she rips the shirt, the Aziz walks in, the Prime Minister. He sees what's going on. He's thinking, what's happening here? And then she plays innocent. She says, what do you think of an individual who tried to harm your family, do evil to your family, except that he's imprisoned or he's punished severely? That's what she said. Even though she's guilty, she wants to pretend to be innocent. But Yusuf alayhi salam, he defends himself instantly. He says, YAHYE RAABI, she seduced me, it wasn't me. And then Allah Ta'ala, He brought in one of their maids who had a child who could not speak. Allah made the child speak, and the child said, إن كان قميصه قد من قبل فصدقت الكاذبين. If the shirt is tied, is tied from the front, ripped from the front, she's telling the truth and Yusuf is lying. But if the shirt is tied from behind, ripped from behind, فكذب, she's lying. وهو من الصادقين, and he's telling the truth. فلما رأى قميصه قد من دبر قال إنه من كيدكن إن كيدكن عظيم. When Aziz saw that the shirt of Yusuf alayhi salam was ripped from behind, he said, this is from your evil plot, and very your plot, it is great. He said, Yusuf أعرض عن هذا. Yusuf, turn away from this, واستغفري لذنبك, and seek forgiveness for your wrongdoing, your sin. إنك كنت من الخاطئين. Verily you are from the wrongdoers. Now listen to this. This teaches us something that's quite interesting, which is that the Muslim does not come to a conclusion unless he has proof and evidence. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he had proof now. The shirt was a qarina, it was evidence, indication that he was innocent. And it was used as proof, indicating that this is a type of evidence that can be used in a situation like this, an indication. That's the first thing. Secondly, it is that Yusuf alayhi salam, he defends himself instantly from falsehood. The believer does not let his honor, reputation be tarnished. You never allow that to happen. And that's the first thing he did. He protected his honor from being tarnished. The third thing it is that look at the reaction of the Aziz. A man who his wife tried to cheat on him, how would he normally react? Would he say, seek forgiveness and turn away and don't do this again? Or how would he react? A man who has ghira, who's protective jealousy, he would be furious. His wife tried to betray him, cheat on him. Betrayal, it could drive a man insane. But that's not how Aziz, he reacted. He had mabda al-diyatha. He showed his wife that this is something that is not a big deal in his eyes to him, which caused her to continue doing her falsehood. But if he was to be extreme in his reaction and to even punish her, she wouldn't have carried on trying to do this with Yusuf alayhi salam. Because the Aziz, he knew that she did this intentionally. You know what indicates that? The word that he used, he said, إِنَّكِ كُنْتِ مِنَ الْخَاطِئِينَ. In Arabic we have the word khati and mukhti. Mukhti is someone who does something wrong accidentally. Khati is someone who does something wrong intentionally. He says to her, I know that you are from the wrongdoers intentionally, but he doesn't do anything about it. The believer, especially the man, part of the iman is ghira. That you have the protected jealousy of your woman folk that you're responsible for. That you don't want to strange man with your wife or your sister or your daughter that you are responsible for. That you protect them from that. That is your responsibility as a man. Right? So then now, امرأة العزيز, after her husband reacted like that, وقال نسوة في المدينة امرأة العزيز تراود فتاها عن نفسه قد شرفها حبا إنا لنراها في ضلال مبين. The women started talking. They're gossiping about Imra'at al-Aziz. What are they saying? They're saying, Imra'at al-Aziz, the wife of the Prime Minister, she tries to seduce her servant in her own home. How embarrassing. She has no shame. We see her to be in clear error. Why are they saying this? They want to see Yusuf. These women, they're curious. They want to see Yusuf alayhi salam. They want her to respond, to react, so that she shows Yusuf to them. They're interested. So what does she do? She gathers these women. These women are the women, these are the ones who are gossiping. Because the women who are the elites, they're not working, they're not doing anything. Everything is done for them. So shakal arba hisab. All they do is talking, gossiping. Even though women like to talk, but these women are worse. So what do? She invites them to her palace. She prepares a huge banquet for them. And then she prepares some fruits and she puts some knives there. When they sit down, they start cutting their fruits. She prepares Yusuf. She beautifies him with the best clothes. She makes him look the best that he can. And then when they're cutting the fruits, she said, "Ukhruj alayhinna, go out to them." And then فَلَمَّا رَأَيْنَهُ أَكْبَرْنَهُ وَقَطَّعْنَ أَيْدِيَهُمْ. When they saw him, they were amazed by him. They were astonished. And then as they're cutting the fruits, they started cutting their own hands. You know what it takes to slice your own hands? There must be a huge distraction which has made you lose feeling in your body. Because when they saw Yusuf alayhi salam, قُلْنَا حَاشَ لِلَّهِ, they said, he's not مَهَلَ بَشَرًا, he's not a human being. إِنْ هَذَا إِلَّا مَلَكٌ كَرِيمٌ. They said, he must be an angel, noble angel. They were amazed at how beautiful he was. Because they were in love at first sight. But they started cutting themselves. And the ulama, when they talk about this ayah, they say that when an individual is attached to something great, a human being, it can even make them lose the feelings that they have in their body. They can lose even the pain. And they explain that and they say that's precisely what allowed Sahaba to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when they were being tortured and persecuted by Quraysh, that they were able to endure it without leaving their faith. Bilal Rabah, radiallahu anhu ardah, when his master Umayyah found out he was Muslim, he started torturing him, beating him for days in the heat of Mecca, lashing him and beating him, placing a huge rock on his chest. And Bilal radiallahu anhu keeps repeating, Ahadun Ahad, only one God, only one Allah. And every time Umayyah hears that, he gets angry and angry and angrier. And he says, accept Lat al-Uzza. And Bilal repeats, Ahadun Ahad. And he kept going for 8 days straight. And Bilal radiallahu anhu kept going, enduring it. Why? Because he was great love for Allah Azza wa Jalla. Khabbab ibn Arat radiallahu anhu ardah, he was taken by Bani Makhzum when they found out he was Muslim, and they tied him up and they placed coal on the ground and they set the coal on fire, and they placed Khabbab's back on that fire, and they placed a huge rock on his chest so that he's not able to get up, and the fire of that coal was not extinguished except with the liquid that came out of the back of Khabbab. But he never left his religion, he was firm. Why were they able to endure so much? Because of how much they love Allah Azza wa Jalla. The extreme love they have for Allah Ta'ala is what allowed them to endure so much for Allah. And these women, just by seeing Yusuf alayhi salam, they sliced their hands. And they did not even realize. They didn't feel it. It wasn't that they're cutting their hands and they could feel, oh wow, it hurts. No pain. That's how distracted they were. And then Imra'atul Aziz, you know what she does now? She says, this is what she blamed me for. And then, you know what she does? She goes even further in her falsehood. She says, yes, when I went to her nafsi, I seduced him, starts on. And he protected himself and shielded himself from the haram. And if he does not do what I'm commanding to do, I'm going to imprison him and he'll be amongst the humiliated. That's what she says. She says, I'm going to imprison him 100% with no tawqeed. And then she says, and he will be amongst the humiliated. As for imprisoning him, she has the power to do that. So she's certain, that's why she said, I certainly will imprison him. But when she says, and he will be amongst the humiliated, she doesn't say he certainly will be amongst the humiliated, because she doesn't have the ability to determine that. Yusuf alayhi salam chose prison over what they're calling hell to. He's my Lord. Prison is more beloved to me than that what they call me to. وَإِلَّا تَصْرِفْ عَنِّي كَيْدَهُنَّ أَصْبُ إِلَيْهِنَّ وَأَكُونْ مِنَ الْجَاهِلِينَ. He said, and if you do not divert, Ya Allah, their plots from me, I will give in and be amongst the ignorant. Yusuf alayhi salam, he chose prison over the haram. He chose to protect himself with prison, even though it takes away his freedom. He would rather lose his freedom than lose his Jannah. He would rather lose that delight and that pleasure in this world that's temporary instead of losing the eternal pleasure in the hereafter. He chose that. But he didn't only choose that. Look what he teaches us. He's a prophet of Allah. He's a righteous man. But he teaches us that in order to overcome the haram, you can't do it by yourself. He says, my Lord, if you don't help me to overcome the haram, I will eventually give in. Help me, assist me, divert it from me. He's asking Allah to help. I've done this far so far, but I don't think I can continue. I'm weak. Help me. That's how the believer is. When you're struggling with haram, when you're struggling with evil, it's upon you to do that which you can to protect yourself, and on top of that, ask Allah for His aid and assistance to help you overcome it. Yusuf alayhi salam, he had that option of prison. We have other options. We're not saying go to prison. We're saying get married, right? We're saying take the option that Allah loves. And we're saying to those who are responsible for their children to make it easier and facilitate for young people to get married, right? This is what I believe. I believe it is better that a young person gets married young and even makes mistakes in that marriage, and even if it does not work out, it is 1,000 times better than them doing zina and doing haram. Parents have this mindset, which is that they're young, they're not going to get it right, they're going to make mistakes. Them not getting it right and making mistakes is 1,000 times better than them going and doing zina, which is so easily accessible, doing something that angers Allah Azza wa Jal, that brings down the wrath of Allah Ta'ala and takes away the blessings and the barakah in that household. Don't be the one who has that silly mindset that they're young, they're going to get it wrong. Yes, not everyone's going to get it right, but that's better than doing haram, than losing their chastity, because you prevented it from occurring. right? Don't be that parent who makes the haram even easier for their children because of how stubborn you are. Yes, we need to make sure that they're ready mentally, physically, financially for marriage. That's important as well. And that's important to also teach our children, to help them attain that. But we should also make it extremely difficult. The Prophet ﷺ was one who used to make this easier for the people. He used to constantly try to facilitate the idea of marriage for even the poor Sahaba who didn't have anything. They would help them financially to get married so they can protect themselves from haram. And they lived in a society where it was conservative. People are covered up, people are in their homes. You don't see women walking around naked. And the Prophet ﷺ would tell them, get married, don't delay. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ saw how we're living now. He'll probably say to us, it's obligatory for me to get married instantly, immediately. How can one live a single life when there's so much haram around him? And some of the parents, they think that their children are good children, they go to university, they go to education, they're fine, they're going to get married, etc. They're going to be okay, or delay to later on. But what they don't know is that what's happening in university, what's happening in school, behind their back, there's so much haram going on, they have no idea. Some of your children may have lost their chastity and you may not know. Allah Azza wa Jalla highlights that matter to us here in this surah, telling us to take it extremely seriously, telling us that society, what makes it upright, it is preserving the family unit. The family unit, which is now at risk because of these ideologies that exist today, which are targeting the family unit. They're trying to destroy the family unit. They're trying to destroy the role of the husband and the wife, and trying to even get rid of husband and wives and make it husbands and wives. All this such satanic ideology is out there. Our children are at risk where they're being indoctrinated with these ideologies that are taking away from them what the family unit really is, and so on. We are meant to be those who preserve that and protect that. There's no time that is more important. I can't stress that enough. That's how we tackle it, that we do what Allah has legislated for us to protect and safeguard our identity as Muslims, our families, and also the Muslim Ummah as a whole. Yusuf alayhi salam, when he goes to prison, when he's taken into prison, now he goes into another phase of his life. When he goes into prison, there are two young men who are servants to the king who are also in prison with him. They notice how Yusuf alayhi salam is in prison. He's worshipping Allah. He's engaged in righteous deeds. He's doing good and he treats people well. And this is a point that I want you all to notice. Yusuf alayhi salam, how many years did he spend with his father? The first 10 years of his life only. He left his father at the age of 10. Those 10 years that he spent with his father, those were the most important 10 years of his life. And those are the most important years of any child's life. From the day you're born until the age of 10, these are the crucial years that the parents must take extremely seriously. All of you are going to be parents one day. This is something that you need to listen up to. Your child, from when they're born to the age of 10, are the most important years of their life. Why? Whatever you teach them in these years, that is going to be their identity. That's what they're going to continue to do for the rest of their life. Don't ever take these years for granted or think they're not important. La. Yaqub alayhi salam, he taught his son Yusuf all the righteous matters and upbringing when he reached before the age of 10. And our Prophet Muhammad taught us to do the same thing. He told us, Muru awladakum as-salah. Command your children to pray. What age? 7. That means that he told us, command them to pray at 7. That means that before 7 you should have taught them salah. They should have been exposed to salah and the masjid and so on. And at the age of 7 now, you're telling them pray. Pray salah al-fajr, pray Asr, Maghrib, Isha. For 3 years, that's your parents wrong. Teaching the child to pray for those 3 years. And then when they get to the age of 10, if they're not praying taught them with love and compassion and mercy for 3 years, telling them, reminding them constantly, if they're not praying after those 3 years, then you're allowed to be harsh, he said, alayhi salatu. Prior to that, you're not allowed to be harsh. It's done with gentleness and a soft approach. When they get to 10 and they refuse to pray or don't pray, then you have to be harsh if you've done your role for 3 years. Right? And that also teaches us that our young daughters, we should be teaching the hijab before the age of 10. Because the Prophet ﷺ told us that. He told us to command them to pray at 7. When a girl is praying, what does she need to wear? Hijab. Meaning that she needs to be exposed to the hijab at a young age, knowing that she needs to cover up, so that before she gets to the age of puberty, she knows. This is important. And this is contrary to some of the belief that some parents they have. Now let them be children, dress however they want. When she gets to 15, I'll tell her to wear hijab. She won't wear hijab. Why are some of our sisters struggling with hijab? Because they never got used to it. It becomes hard when you get older. But if they knew it from a young age, that would be their identity. They don't know anything else but hijab. That's important. You need to teach them. Oh, one may turn around and say, no, but you shouldn't force the children to do anything at a young age. What do you mean force? The child doesn't know what's right and wrong. The parents is the one who's meant to determine that. When you were young, did you want to go to school? You didn't want to go to school, right? But your parents made you go to school. Why? Because that's good for you. You don't know what's good for you. Your parents must determine that for you. When you're older, you appreciate it. If you didn't go to school, your parents listened to you when younger. I don't want to go to school. When you were older, you had no education, you have no life, and you're an absolute bum. You would be like, I wish my parents didn't listen to me. Why did they listen to me? So anyone who makes that argument, because I saw subhanAllah, some feminists will say, how can you force a child to wear hijab? You're not forcing a child to wear hijab, you're teaching them to wear hijab. They don't know what they need to do. They need to be taught it, like they taught everything else in life. How can someone say, let them make that decision for themselves? What decision is a child making at 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10? What does he know? That's the parent's duty, to teach them what's right and wrong and raise them upon that. Don't let these Western ideas infiltrate you and make you seem like the dumbest donkey. Because it's so dumb for you someone to make an argument like that. Tell the child to make that choice themselves. They didn't make that choice themselves. What do they know? They don't make any choices. So foolish. So that's what Yaqub alayhi salam did. Look, Yaqub alayhi salam, he raised Yusuf those 10 years upon Tawheed and righteousness and Islam. Yusuf alayhi salam, he goes to a strange land, far away from his father. He's living in Egypt. Some parents today, if their child leaves them and goes to another city to go study, etc., they're terrified. Is he going to be a Muslim still? Is he going to be doing haram, etc.? They're scared. Yaqub doesn't have that fear. His son is in Egypt, far away from him. He has no idea where he is. He doesn't have that fear. And Yusuf alayhi salam, he faced a number of tests. Zina came to him. He refused because of his father's teachings. He's faced with shirk, which is around him. All the people are Muslims. He's worshipping Allah alone, monotheist. Those 10 years helped contribute to that. That's why the tarbiyah is so essential. Even when you live in non-Muslim countries. Yusuf alayhi salam was living in a non-Muslim country. In Egypt, he grew up there. But that tarbiyah his father taught him for the first 10 years saved him. That's what we need to do for our children. Raise them upon that tawheed, righteousness, so that it saves them from all the evil that surrounds them. Nobody will be able to teach them anything that contradicts their deen in schools, even nothing. They won't be shaken by anything if you give them that strong upbringing. I remember when I was young, my parents used to, I know my father, may Allah has blessed him, when I used to go to primary school in the UK, he would, Christmas time when it comes, you know, they do these festivals and all that stuff, right? So, of course, they are saying things that go against our religious Muslims. Before we go to school, my father would sit us down and to explain to us what we believe as Muslims. I'm probably 6, I'm year 2 or maybe year 7, I didn't know year 3, so 7 years old. At that age I'm young. He would sit us down and he would say to us, okay, what does Allah say in the Quran? And I memorize a few exactly, would say, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ اللَّهُ الصَّمَدُ لَمْ يَلِدْ وَلَمْ يُولَدْ وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. Right? You know Surah Al-Ikhlas, what does it mean? It means this, that Allah is one. He is the self-sufficient that all the creation need, and He provides them all. He has no parents, no children, and no one is like Allah Azza wa Jal. Then he will say to us, now you know that that's what we believe, that's the truth. Don't argue with the teachers, just keep it to yourself. And that's your belief system. Don't let anyone shake you from that or divert you from that. That conversation that I had, it gave me that, it affirmed for me what I believe. I used to go walking there with my head high. I'm a Muslim, this is all nonsense. But I kept it myself. Why? So that I don't cause frictional issues in school. I keep my faith. You guys, lakum deenukum waliya deen. But those conversations helped a lot. But to the extent that sometimes I'll get excited and I'll be like, you know what, I want to get out of school and give him a speech and I call him Tawheed. He's mushrikeen. But my father told me, nah, keep it to yourself, don't cause problems. So I said, okay, after this, that, my dad. You see? That's the tarbiyah that you give to parent, your children, it goes very far. It goes very far. Now Yusuf enters prison. When he enters the prison, these two young men, they notice he's worshipping Allah, he's doing good, they see the goodness in him, they come to him, they both had a dream. And they said, Nabbina bi ta'wili, inna naraka min al-muhsinin. Tell us our dreams, what they mean. We see you to be amongst the muhsinin, the good doers. You are good in your worship to Allah, and you are good to the creation of Allah. Therefore, give us the interpretation of the dream. Yusuf alayhi salam, he tells them that he informs them that he has knowledge of interpreting dreams. He said that there's no risk of food that's going to come to you as you go to see the dream, except that I will tell you exactly what it means. I know the interpretation. I'm certain of that. Allah told you that. But before he gives them what they want, the interpretation, now he has their full attention and they know he can interpret the dream. What does he start with? Calling them to Allah. He starts with that which is more important, because he has their full attention. He's in prison and he's calling to Allah. And this teaches us that the one who is a believer, no matter what situation he's placed in, he uses that as an opportunity to call to Allah. Whatever you have, you call to Allah. You don't have to be in a specific place or situation to call to Allah. Everywhere you are, you call to Allah. Yusuf is in prison, alayhi salam. These two men, they're asking about something completely different. But he sees their disbelievers, he calls them to Allah before anything else, because it's an opportunity for him to call them to that which is more important. That's how the believer is. But after he calls them to Allah, he tells them about the interpretation of the dream. One man is going to be crucified, the other one is going to be pouring wine for his master, and he's going to escape, he's going to leave prison. So as for the one he knew he was going to leave prison, Yusuf uses that as an opportunity. He told him, listen, when you leave prison, because you're going to leave soon, that's what your dream means, I want you to convey a message from me to your master, so that I can go out. But what happens? The man leaves prison. When he leaves prison, Shaitan makes him forget. And Yusuf remained in prison for a number of years. Now, after years, what happens? Another dream happens. Yusuf alayhi salam, Allah could have determined that he left at that time, this man didn't forget. But Allah had a better plan for Yusuf. He made him stay a number more years in prison. Yusuf could have left at that time and gone back to being a slave, a servant in Egypt. But Allah made him wait longer because he had something greater in store for him. The king is going to see a dream. He sees that dream, now the man remembers, oh wait, I know someone who can interpret dreams. Then he comes back to you, I'm going to go to Yusuf in prison. He goes to Yusuf alayhi salam. He gets him to interpret the dream. But Yusuf alayhi salam, he makes a request. He says, I want, after the dream is interpreted and conveyed to the king requests Yusuf, this man who knows the interpretation dream, he's very valuable to me. He wants him. Yusuf alayhi salam said, not leave in prison until my innocence is proven. Go to the women who cut their hands. They'll tell you the truth. I want my name to be cleared. My reputation is essential. And that's important. You're the Muslim. We live in the West, they teach you that, why do you care what people say about you? Why do you care what people think about you? No, the Muslim cares about what people think about him. He cares about what people view him as. Why? Because your honor, your reputation is part of your deen, of your religion, religiosity. Imagine the Prophet ﷺ, he was walking in the middle of the night with his wife Sophia, and two companions see the Prophet ﷺ from a distance. And then they walk away, they see him with a woman, they don't know who the woman is, it's dark. The Prophet ﷺ to them, he says to them, إِنَّهَا صَفِيَّةٌ, verily Safiya. And don't get the wrong idea. Protecting his honor. And he's the best of creation. He doesn't need to do that. They say, Ya Rasulullah, we never would have doubted you. But he said to the shaitan, he flows through the blood of the son of Adam. He'll make you think things that you normally wouldn't think. So protecting your honor is part of your religiosity. It's part to protect your reputation. So Yusuf alayhi salam, he said, my name has to be cleared. Once it's cleared, then I'll come. And that was done. And he came out of prison. And now the king wants to appoint him to a role. Yusuf alayhi salam chooses a role that he's appointed to. He said, make me the minister, the treasurer, who's in charge of the finances, because I have the ability to do so. And this teaches something. If you're qualified for something, there's no shame in you saying that I can take on this role, because you know that you're able to fulfill it. And that's part of amana, being trustworthy. Because you know you can do something properly, putting yourself back when you're able to do something is not humility. Rather, it goes against humility, because someone else may come there who's not qualified and corrupt the whole place. If you're able to do something, putting yourself forward is not arrogance. He said, Inni Hafidh Alim. I know this and I'm trustworthy. You can trust me. This is my field. And Yusuf alayhi salam was now powerful. I'm summarizing because we're running out of time. He became powerful. Now he is the treasurer of Egypt. His brothers eventually come to Egypt and they seek his help, and then eventually send them back to bring their father and mother, and they come back and now he exposes himself to him, he reveals himself to them, and they realize that what they've done is wrong and they extreme regret, and he responds with a response that is great. He says to them, لَا تَثْرِيبَ عَلَيْكُمُ الْيَوْمَ يَغْفِرُ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. He said, Allah will forgive you, there's no blame upon you today. Allah will forgive you, He's the most merciful of those who have mercy. You know what makes it so great? Yusuf alayhi salam, his brothers now, who basically completely changed his life and ruined his life and put him through so much misery, he has the ability now to punish them. He is able to punish them severely. Everything is there, ready for him to punish them. But what does he do? He pardons them. And that's the greatest form of pardoning, forgiveness, al-afwa al-maghfirah. Pardoning when you're able to punish. It's more rewarding than when you pardon when you can't do anything. He's able to punish them, but he says, no blame upon you, I forgive him. And Allah will forgive you. Turn to Allah, he reminds of the mercy of Allah, the forgiveness of Allah. His brothers before that, what did they say to him? He's now the Aziz, he's the minister of Egypt. They say to him, Inna naraka bil mahsinin. When they're asking him a question, we see you to be amongst the good doers. وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. At the beginning of the story, Allah said like that will reward the muhsinin. When he's in prison, the two prisoners, they say to him, نَبِّئْنَا بِتَأْوِيلِهِ إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We see you to be the good doers, from the good doers. His brothers, they see him as the lead, as the minister of Egypt, powerful. But they still say to him, إِنَّا نَرَاكَ مِنَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. We see you to be amongst the good doers. Yusuf alayhi salam taught us something great. Despite all the phases he went through his life, all the stages he went through in life, he was consistent in his ihsan, in his relationship with Allah, and in the goodness in his relationship with the creation of Allah Ta'ala. He never let any titles or fame or status or any success delude him and change him and corrupt him. Never. He remained the same throughout. And that's how we're meant to be. No matter how successful you get, no matter how much you attain and achieve in life, don't ever let that make you become an arrogant individual who belittles people, looks down on people, who start treating people in a wrong manner and so on, because that is one of the first things that's going to destroy your success and the blessings of Allah Ta'ala. It's a form of you not being grateful to Allah Azza wa Jalla. He continued being the exact same person throughout. Why? Because his character that he has, he does it for Allah and no one but Allah. And he believes in Allah, and he worships Allah, and Allah Azza wa Jalla is always going through his life, therefore he's going to remain the same person. That is Yusuf alayhi salam. Now, this story, it teaches us that in order for us to be those who attain goodness, who attain success, who attain khair in this world and next life, we must be those who have a number of qualities. He says, إِنَّهُ مَنْ يَتَّقِي وَيَصْبِرْ. The one who has taqwa, God consciousness, who fears Allah Ta'ala, who is conscious of Allah Ta'ala, sees him at all times. He has fear in his heart, which creates a barrier between him and the anger of Allah and the disobedience of Allah Ta'ala. وَيَصْبِرْ, and he's patient. Also happen, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُضِيعُ أَجْرَ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Allah Azza will never waste the reward of the muhsinin. He has ihsan. That's the formula to success. Yusuf alayhi salam, he says at the end that this is how I got here. Taqwa, which I was taught by my father from a young age, which I inherited, which I kept with me the whole time, and patience. He was patient in the well. He was patient with Imran al-Aziz. He was patient in prison. And he remained a muhsin, one who is sincere, who worships Allah as if he can see Allah, and is conscious that Allah sees him. Those three qualities, one who has that, Allah Ta'ala will always 100% without a second doubt grant you success in this life and next life. Allah Ta'ala will never abandon you. Allah will assist you. Allah will aid you. Allah will be with you. But you need to be one who feels that side of the deal in order to get that. I ask Allah Ta'ala to forgive our sins. I ask Allah Ta'ala to have mercy upon us. I ask Allah Ta'ala to make us from those who hear this speech for the best of it. I ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us all beneficial knowledge. I ask Allah to make us from those who are guided, are increasing guidance, and others are guided through them. I ask Allah Ta'ala to grant us all the Jannah A'la without any previous punishment, very difficult to count, without parents, our loved ones, all those who are upon us. إنه جواد كريم صلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله.